There are moments in international politics when the choreography of power is so carefully staged that it collapses under its own weight. Mohammed bin Salman's return to Washington is one of those moments. The Crown Prince arrives as if stepping back onto a stage from which he was abruptly dragged 7 years ago when the dismembered body of Khashoggi forced the world to remember that modernization can wear a very thin mask. And so, as he sits in the White House beside Donald Trump, or as he sat the other day, hands twitching, eyes lowered, he is not quite the triumphant reformer of 2018, nor the pariah Joe Biden once promised to make pay the price. He is instead a man attempting something more subtle, a re-entry into polite society without ever admitting he stepped outside it. The table is set for theatre. Trump, as ever, performs the protective host, scolding a journalist who raises the killing in Istanbul. He insists that the question would embarrass his guest, though it is MBS who interrupts, knowing full well that the ghost of Khashoggi has followed him up Pennsylvania Avenue. His words are contrite but carefully sanitized. The killing was a huge mistake, he says, the kind of mistake which involved 2 chartered planes, 15 agents, a bone saw, and a man suffocating on a carpet of a diplomatic mission. The prince shakes his head, and for a moment the room holds its breath, but nothing in the scene is designed for truth, it's designed for rehabilitation. When Khashoggi was murdered, MBS's meteoric rise was meant to stall. Western leaders recoiled, sanctions were imposed, investment plans were frozen, and suddenly the wunderkind of Vision 2030 looked less like a reformer and more like a ruler who mistook ruthlessness for strategy. Yet the remarkable thing is not that the Crown Prince survived, but that he recalculated faster than his critics could condemn him. The man who had launched a war in Yemen, blockaded Qatar, kidnapped a Lebanese prime minister and locked 300 royals and tycoons in the Ritz-Carlton, now decided that subtlety had its uses. Out went the swagger, in came the technicians, the religious police were muzzled, concerts, cinemas, tourism, social liberalisation unfurled across the kingdom. The aggressive regional posture softened as he mended fences with Qatar, restored ties with Iran, tried to extricate Saudi Arabia from Yemen's quagmire. A new MBS emerged, less incendiary, more managerial. The palace had discovered that bellicosity carries a price tag, and yet, while the kingdoms modernized, the prisons did not. One wrong tweet could still bring the door crashing in. Executions mounted. Critics were silenced with a severity unchallenged from the old days. Hundreds of political detainees were released this year, but many remain buried in legal limbo. The message is unmistakable. Transformation, yes. Accountability, no. It's the familiar defense of every autocrat disguised as a reformer. When challenged, the Crown Prince's supporters shrug and say that rapid change requires a firm hand. They admire his energy, applaud his ambition, and insist he understands the limit of the old theocratic order. Perhaps he does. But power concentrated so tightly in one pair of hands rarely learns restraint. Washington, meanwhile, has moved on from this with unseemly speed. Biden's vow to make Saudi Arabia a pariah evaporated the moment oil prices became inconvenient. The fist bump was followed that was awkward, but the message was unmistakable. Values contract the moment interests expand, and now Trump is back as untroubled by moral complexity as he is enthusiastic about lucrative defense pacts. The White House flies Saudi flags down Pennsylvania Avenue, preparing a lavish welcome for a man whom American intelligence agencies concluded had approved a mission to capture or kill a journalist on foreign soil. If this counts as contrition's reward, one wonders what penance looks like. Both leaders want something from the room. Trump wants Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords and normalize relations with Israel. MBS wants a defense pact, F-35s, advanced missile systems, access to American AI, chips and nuclear cooperation. The irony is that each man's desire obstructs the other. Saudi Arabia will not endorse Netanyahu's Israel without a credible pathway to a Palestinian state, something the Israeli government has no intention of offering. Trump, who likes geopolitical trophies far more than geopolitical complexities, has discovered that the Crown Prince is not a man to be pushed into a corner. MBS understands leverage, he understands long games, he knows Trump wants his signature far more than he needs Trump's approval. And yet, beneath the strategic bargaining, something more human is unfolding. For MBS, this visit is an attempted absolution, not judicial absolution, that will never be offered, but social absolution, diplomatic absolution, the absolution of being seen again at the centre of the world's most powerful court as though nothing truly changed in 2018. It is an attempt to retroactively edit a narrative which refuses to die. The prince wishes to be known as the architect of modern Saudi Arabia, not the man whose agents carried a bone saw into a consulate. He wishes to be remembered for mega-cities, concerts, galleries, and social freedoms, not the muffled cry of a journalist who trusted the wrong door. But history is stubborn. Rehabilitation is never quite complete, even as he dazzles investors and charms presidents. The Khashoggi murder clings to him like a shadow cast by a torch he long ago tried to extinguish. Some Saudis may have moved on. Many in the West pretend to. Yet when he sat in the White House, hands clasped, eyes down, as Trump rebuked a journalist for daring to mention a murder, and the fragile truth of the moment broke through the choreography, MBS is not quite free of the past he created. This visit, then, is a performance of legitimacy rather than the reality of it, a prince seeking to convince a watching world that he can re-enter polite society without passing through the moral reckoning that polite society normally demands. And a president willing to indulge that performance because strategic interests make ethical discomfort a price worth paying. Both men will leave the table having gained something, but neither will leave having resolved the one question that cannot be answered by defense pacts, investment agreements, or diplomatic pageantry. How does a leader rebuild a reputation in a world that remembers what he would prefer to forget?